blood streaming down his face. He's got his right fist up in the air. And even more iconic, the American flag is behind him in the background. It's like a Braveheart moment. And if this doesn't wake up more people to get out and vote for Trump, then I don't know what the fuck will.
I'm Stephanie Keith.
And I am Tara Manjakovich. And we are unapologetically outspoken.
Hey, everybody. Happy Monday. So obviously, we have to talk about the breaking news from over the weekend, which was the attempted assassination of Trump. So first of all, Stephanie, how many times have we said this was going to happen?
I know. I felt so bad yesterday when this all went down because I'm like, okay, I've said this out loud. Like, I can't believe it hasn't happened yet. But then still, like, when it happened, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened. It was like it was just crazy.
Yeah. And it's like they're obviously trying to take him out. And as we dive into the details that have been released so far, it seems to me like the situation was more than a little bit shady, and like shit is not adding up. There are a lot of questionable things going on. And so let's just dive right in. So it happened on Saturday. Trump was at a rally in Butler County, Pennsylvania, and he's talking, and several rifle shots were fired at him from an elevated position. And he fortunately only received a minor wound because one of the bullets grazed his right upper ear, but one spectator in the crowd was killed and two others were critically wounded. And the shooter was killed by Secret Service agents. They have identified him as 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks, and he's a resident of a nearby area in Bethel Park. And the press has been trying to highlight the fact that this kid is a registered Republican, although he's never been old enough to vote in a presidential election until this year. And I guess he was wearing a t-shirt that had some kind of like pro-gun YouTube channel on it. But he has also made donations to a Democrat-aligned political action committee called Progressive Turnout Project back in 2021. Reportedly, he has no criminal record, but they released pictures of him on Sunday. And I will be as polite as possible in saying that he looks a bit unhinged and troubled, like typical of the active shooter look. And, anyway.
Yep.
So and at the time of this recording, like we're recording this on Sunday afternoon, they haven't released any other details about him or any explanation of the motive. And they've gone and talked to his parents, and they're not saying anything until they speak with the police. So there's no word on whether he was acting alone or if he had accomplices or if anyone knew what was going on. But what almost like made me cry, Stephanie, like Trump's immediate reaction to being shot and what he did and said when this happened. So the Secret Service agents, when they said like the shooter's down and they're getting ready to move Trump off the stage, you can hear Trump saying like, let me get my shoes, let me get my shoes. And then the agent tells him like, your head's bloody and we have to move. And so Trump says, wait, wait. And then he like puts his fist up in the air with his right hand and he mouths the words fight, fight, fight. And the fucking crowd goes wild and they're yelling USA, USA, USA. And like, Stephanie, I don't know about you, but this gave me goosebumps and like had me choked up with pride because this was an example of what a fucking real leader does. Trump stayed composed. He was strong. Instead of allowing Secret Service to just like quickly whisk him away, with his head covered with a jacket or whatever, and giving a statement hours later, he did the total opposite. He turned and faced the crowd, basically told them, keep fighting for America. Like, that's grit and resiliency and a show of strength. And it's the mark of true leadership. Like that was a straight fucking power move. And if you guys haven't seen it, you got to look at the videos, the photos of him being led away by Secret Service. There's blood streaming down his face. He's got his right fist up in the air. And even more iconic, the American flag is behind him in the background. It's like a Braveheart moment. And if this doesn't wake up more people to get out and vote for Trump, then I don't know what the fuck will.
Oh, yeah. I was watching this, as it was unfolding with my teenage daughter. And same thing, I got like full body goosebumps when that happened. And like when we saw him do that and knew like, okay, he's okay, I was like, he just won the election. Like
Mhm.
100%, anyone that doesn't freaking vote for him at this point is like just delusional.
Yeah.
And I think we're already seeing that photo of Trump with the bloody face from being shot. Like we're gonna be seeing that everywhere. And he's got his fist in the air, and people are putting that next to confused, weak Joe Biden. And it's like undeniable who the real true fighter and leader of this country is. And one thing I want to add is when we were watching this unfold, like when the crowd started chanting USA, there were a whole bunch of people that started flicking off the cameras. And my
Yeah.
daughter's like, why are they mad? Like, what are they doing? And I was like, they're flicking off the media because the media has like incited this violence. They've called for this to happen. And they're like basically calling him out on it. And she was like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. And then we sat around for almost 2 hours before we heard from Biden. We
Yeah.
heard from like everyone in the world. And then Biden comes on like almost 2 hours later. So I'm going to play the clip of what he had to say.
This kind of violence. It's sick. It's sick. It's one of the reasons why we have to unite this country. We cannot allow for this to be happening. We cannot be like this. We cannot condone this. And I want to thank the Secret Service and all the agencies, including the state agencies, that have been engaged in making sure that the people who, and we have more detail to come relative to other people maybe injured in the audience. I don't have all that detail. We'll make that available to you. I may be able to come back a little later tonight, but we'll put out a statement if I'm not able to give it if it's not convenient for you all. But the bottom line is that the Trump rally was a rally that he should have been able to be conducted peacefully without any problem. But the idea that there's political violence or violence in America like this is just unheard of. It's just not appropriate. And everybody must condemn it. Everybody. I'll keep you informed, and if I am able to speak to Donald, I'll let you know that as well. But so far, it appears he's doing well. Number one. Number two, that there's thoroughly investigating what happened to anyone else in the audience. We have some reports, but not final reports. And every agency in the federal government, I'm going back to my phone to speak with the federal agencies that are being put together again to give me an updated briefing. Has anything happened? They learned any more in the last couple hours. So thank you very much. And I hope I get to speak to them tonight, and I'll get back to you if I do.
Yeah, you're not
Okay,
getting
wait,
that to
wait.
anyone. You're going to bed.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you know what he's probably thinking? Is like, you're not gonna hear from me because
Yeah.
I'm gonna go take a nap. I didn't get enough sleep.
Well, honestly, I was thinking like, did he already go to bed? Because it took, an hour and a half to 2 hours. So it's like, where was he? And, just the other day, we were talking about how they were saying, what if there's a nuclear emergency and you're in bed at 8 o'clock or whatever? Is it going to take an hour and a half to wake you up and rouse you and get you going?
Yeah, and this happened at like 6 something, right?
Yes.
And my
Yeah.
my thought was like, okay, well, we've already seen how he's completely unable to speak like off the cuff in the heat of the moment. So maybe it just took that long for the, drug concoction to take effect for them to put him in front of a camera to
Yeah.
read that prepared speech.
Right. And it's like, it's so embarrassing because, of course, at that point, we already had all that information. Like he's trying to make it sound like he's informing the public when really at that point, we knew someone in the audience had been shot. Like we knew all the facts that he didn't even know yet. So it's like, and Trump had already posted or told someone like he's fine. We had that information. Everyone in the world was commenting on it before Biden could make his way to give a short statement.
Oh yeah, even Obama put out a statement before Trump did.
Mhm.
And like, did you notice, Stephanie? This is like very underhanded. Biden was basically saying in the beginning of his statement was that this is why we need him to save democracy, to unite the country, right? His response was so politically correct. And to use a term like to say political violence is, quote, not appropriate. Like there was no genuine compassion in his statement at all, except someone obviously must have like tried to make him sound sincere by using Trump's first name and having him refer to him as Donald instead of his usual like my opponent or the would-be dictator bent on destroying democracy. And I'm surprised that he actually left his beach house in Delaware to go back to the White House. And meanwhile, you had all these other world leaders that were speaking out about what happened. And the most common response from them is like shock and appall about what happened in the country that's supposed to be the poster child for democracy.
Yeah, I wanted to throw up when he's like, we need to unity, we need to unify. I'm like, you've been there for 4 years. This is what happens. Like, you created this. I mean, like, what is he talking about? We're not stupid. And then you have the other political candidate for presidency, RFK Jr. Immediately, like before I even knew what was going on, he posted across social media, gave a great, sentiment about the same thing, like this needs to stop. We need to come together as a nation. And then he was out there doing interviews with different news channels and just handled the whole situation with so much class. So I want to play a clip from the interview that he did with Newsmax so we can compare how Biden reacted versus RFK.
We noticed the guy crawling.
Hang on, wrong clip. Let's see, here we go.
Well, my thoughts are that it's time for us all every American to take a step back, to take a breath, to understand that this moment that we're all complicit in it, that all of us who fed into the vitriol, to the hatred, to the anger, that this is the ultimate culmination of that, and we need to all step back and start seeing each other once again as Americans, as part of a community, understand that America is better than this, that we now have the exemplary nation again, and that we need to come together in a spirit of love, of forgiveness, of reconciliation. And let's start healing our country again and use this terrible, terrible event to start unifying again. And of course, to pray at this moment for President Trump and for his family, who are all going through an ordeal with which I'm very familiar.
I thought that sounded actually genuine, and it's
Yes.
like he meant it, and he's calling himself out. He's saying we're all complicit. I mean, in creating this environment, what a contrast from Biden, so I had to just play that and compare the two. So anyhow, Trump then, posted, quote, I want to thank the United States Secret Service and all the law enforcement for the rapid response on the shooting that just took place in Butler, Pennsylvania. Most importantly, I want to extend my condolences to the family of the person at the rally who was killed and also to the family of another person that was badly injured. It is incredible that such an act can take place in our country. Nothing is known at this time about the shooter who is now dead. I was shot with a bullet that pierced the upper part of my right ear. I knew immediately that something was wrong and that I heard a whizzing sound, shots, and immediately felt the bullet ripping through my skin. Much bleeding took place, so I realized then what was happening. God bless America.
Yeah, Stephanie, do you think that Biden's first response would have been to extend his condolences to the family of the person at the rally who was killed and the family of those who were injured? Because I don't. Like,
I mean,
I
that's
think
what someone who's coherent would do.
right. But I think the first thing out of Biden's mouth, if he had been the target, would have been some kind of statement blaming, Trump supporters and the MAGA movement for the violence. And then following that by blaming the lack of gun control in America and how it's all a threat to democracy and that this proves it's all a threat to democracy. And I think the press would have immediately blamed it on Trump and the MAGA movement as well. Meanwhile, in this instance, the press was initially very reluctant to even call it an assassination attempt. One of CNN's first headlines after the incident was, quote, Secret Service rushes Trump off stage after he falls at rally, end quote.
Are you kidding me?
Nope. Nope. Like he just fell, right? And once you read the article, they gave details, but that was the headline. And then I read several articles talking about how it was a quote, possible assassination attempt. Like, no, it wasn't fucking possible. It was an outright literal assassination attempt that just barely missed Trump being murdered by a couple of inches, right? And finally, the FBI admitted on Sunday that yes, they thought it was an assassination attempt.
You know, this could have been a moment where the media tries to redeem themselves because clearly we know they've been lying for years about Biden's dementia. This could have been a moment where they did the classy thing and, kind of like tried to unify the country. But no, like they're playing games. They're saying he fell. Like, are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah.
And what was so weird too is like, watching it all unfold and the people in the bleachers just like sitting there and I'm like yelling at my TV like get down, but it's like I think everyone was in shock and no one really knew what happened for like the first few seconds because it was just so chaotic. And it wasn't until they removed Trump that medics went into the bleachers and carried a man out who was covered in blood. And so I'm going to play a clip from an emergency room doctor who was there and tried to save the man.
Exactly where I heard him come from. What did you see, sir? I heard the shots. I thought it was firecrackers to begin with. Somebody over there was screaming, he's been shot, he's been shot. So I made my way over. I said, I'm an emergency department physician. Let me help you. The guy had spun around and was jammed between the benches. He had a headshot here. There was lots of blood and he had brain matter there. And so I got him. There's no helicopter coming in to get him. I got people there really helpful. I got him on his back. Then I did CPR, did chest compressions as well as a breathing.
So that was graphic, sorry, but I mean, for everyone that's, on social media trying to say like, oh, this was a setup or something like that, like it, this poor man lost his life and he was sitting, right behind Trump. Like Trump came so close. He a millimeter away, like he would, be gone. And so it's just crazy. And so then like a little bit later after that, they did confirm that that rally goer along with the shooter were dead, like you said, Tara, earlier. And a lot of people on social media are questioning like how this shooter got on a roof within 200 yards that had a direct line to Trump without Secret Service noticing. And so there was an eyewitness that actually saw the shooter and he was yelling at police like that this guy has a gun. And he said he was wondering why Trump was still speaking and hadn't been pulled off stage because he had been like alerting police for like a few minutes. And the guy manages to get 5 rounds before they shot him. How they didn't see this guy earlier really makes no sense. And so I want to play a clip of the witness explaining like exactly what he saw.
We noticed the guy crawling, bear crawling up the roof of the building beside us, 50 feet away from us. So we're standing there, we're pointing at the guy crawling up the roof.
And he had a gun, right?
He had a rifle. We could clearly see him with a rifle. Absolutely. We're pointing at him. The police are down there running around on the ground. We're like, hey, man, there's a guy on the roof with a rifle. And the police were like, huh, what? Like they didn't know what was going on. We're like, hey, right here on the roof. We can see him from right here. We see him. He's crawling. And next thing you know, I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, why is Trump still speaking? Why have they not pulled him off the stage? I'm standing there pointing at him for 2-3 minutes. Secret Service is looking at us from the top of the barn. I'm pointing at that roof, just standing there like this. And next thing you know, 5 shots ring out.
So you're certain that the shots came from that guy on the roof?
100%. 100%.
And he was up there for a couple of minutes.
He was up
you
there.
saw him up there for a couple of minutes.
Absolutely. At least 3 to 4 minutes.
And you were telling the police and the Secret Service.
We were telling the police. We were pointing at him for the Secret Service, who were looking at us from the top of the barn. They were looking at us the whole time when we were standing by that tree.
Could they see
binoculars?
Could they see him?
Probably not, because the roof, the way the slope went, he was behind where they could see. But why is there not Secret Service on all of these roofs here? I mean, this is not a big place.
Did you see, I mean, obviously everyone, when the shooting started, everyone was very panicked. Did you see what happened to him at all?
Oh yeah, they blew his head off.
Okay, sorry.
Secret Service blew his head off.
Okay, we just be careful because we don't quite know who's watching, but you're pretty sure they shot the guy.
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay.
Yep.
You saw that happen?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And did you see them go up to him afterwards, or?
They crawled up on the roof. They had their guns pointed at him, make sure he was dead. He was dead, and that was it. It was over.
So interesting, because you can see the guy on the roof, like that's going all around social media. But late last night, when I was scrolling through TikTok, someone that was in the audience, like in front of Trump, posted a video as like right before the shooting happened through the whole shooting. And I zoomed in because in the background, you could see the Secret Service snipers on the roof, and they are looking directly in the area where the shots came. And the whole time I'm thinking, like, how can they not see this guy? They're looking right at him. And then this witness said the same thing. He said, I'm waving at the Secret Service snipers, like pointing to the roof, and they're not doing anything. And as he said, like, he thinks it was about 3 minutes that went by before this all went down. And he's like, why is Trump still talking? He should have been whisked away. So to me, that raises a lot of questions.
Yeah, that's the thing is even if you can argue like, that the Secret Service isn't going to immediately shoot this guy, get Trump off the fucking stage, right?
Yeah.
That should have been number one. And I want to play a quick clip from a female witness who was like in the front row watching this, because I think this speaks to the heart of what the MAGA supporters are all about. And this is a clip that I heard on the Megyn Kelly show.
Tell me what you saw.
Okay. I was in the first row right in front of President Trump. I heard first boom, boom. I heard 4 boom, boom, booms. Immediately thought fireworks. Somebody's still putting off fireworks. Then the Secret Service jumped onto him, pushed him to the ground.
What did he look like when you saw him, when he got up?
So I'm just telling you now, I pushed him to the ground. That's what we saw. And not one of us in the front row either hid down or anything. We all stood up strong to make sure we wanted to protect him too. We wouldn't move till Trump got up.
What did you see from him?
How fucking awesome is that? I mean, it's a little crazy.
Well, that explains why I was yelling at the TV, like to get down, and no one was getting down. But yeah, it is. It's so crazy. And Elon Musk, he immediately, retweeted or tweeted that, quote, the head of the Secret Service and the leader of the security detail should resign, end quote. And I agree. Like, I think we need answers immediately on why this area wasn't secured. Like, we're talking about Trump, whose plane is escorted by fighter jets, and he has an entire fleet of vehicles and law enforcement surrounding him wherever he goes, but they leave a roof unsecured with a direct line of sight to Trump. And like, this comes just days before the Republican National Convention. And we always say they'll do anything to make sure Trump doesn't get back into the White House. And I mean, I think it's clear, what's going on here.
Yeah, I want to say too, like Elon Musk, he put out a statement on X now saying that he fully endorses Trump, which I think is awesome. And then the House Oversight Committee immediately initiated an investigation into this assassination attempt. They're calling on the Secret Service director to attend a hearing this week. And I hope they fucking grill the DHS and fucking Mayorkas on denying Trump's requests for increased security. Like, even CNN is now raising questions about how the shooter got on the roof. And they there was an article this morning talking about two former FBI agents who told CNN that the rooftop should have been guarded. One of them called it like the perfect perch. And one of the former agents, his name is Bobby Chacon, and he said, quote, "That building is the closest building with a clear line of sight to where the stage was. I'm shocked they didn't have somebody on that roof," end quote. And I will tell you from my own personal experience, I have worked multiple details for POTUS, for the VP, and for foreign dignitaries when I was with LAPD, because I worked for several years in a specialized unit that handled all of these details. And I have seen the extreme amount of detail that goes into planning security for these events. I worked several of them during the 2016 election campaign season, and like the security coverage was fucking insane. So I agree that to miss something like this seems a little suspect, right? And the bottom line is that the Biden administration has been repeatedly telling the American people that Trump is a dictator. He's a threat to democracy. He's a threat to the very soul of the nation. He's been repeatedly compared to Hitler. Like the message over and over is that Americans must do everything in our power to keep Trump out of office. This is the rhetoric of violence that their entire campaign has been centered around. And just a few days ago, Biden even made a statement at a campaign event where he said, quote, "We're done talking about the debate. It's time to put Trump in a bullseye," end quote. And like, that's exactly what just fucking happened.
Yeah. Like you said in the beginning, we've been calling this for months now. And it made me think of a clip from Tucker Carlson where he did an interview a few months ago and he totally laid it out. So I just want to play that because it's insane how everything has played out exactly like he said.
Names. He won anyway. They impeached him twice on ridiculous pretenses. They fabricated a lot about what happened on January 6th in order to impeach him again. It didn't work. He came back. Then they indicted him. It didn't work. He became more popular. Then they indicted him 3 more times. And every single time his popularity rose. So you begin with criticism. Then you go to protest. Then you go to impeachment. Now you go to indictment. And none of them work. What's next? I mean, graph it out, man. We're speeding toward assassination, obviously. And no one will say that. But I don't know how you can reach that conclusion. You know what I mean? Like, they have decided, permanent Washington, both parties have decided that there's something about Trump that's so threatening to them, they just can't have it.
Yeah, it's like everyone knew what was going to happen. They were calling for this. And I mean, I already told you my theory that I think the Mar-a-Lago raid was the first assassination attempt. I think had he been there on that day, he could have been shot the way that they went there, like without their uniforms and stuff. So I thought that the way Tucker laid it all out, I mean, it's obvious. Who wants to take Trump out? Well, who has already tried taking him out? Not once, but over and over and over and over again. It's like the Washington establishment uniparty. Who does the head of the Secret Service work for? The Washington establishment uniparty. And I'm not sitting here and saying that I think the Secret Service is bad or that every agent is compromised. All I'm saying is it would take one guy to say the perimeter is secured when it isn't, or to let someone pass that shouldn't be there. And, the left always wants to scream about the January 6th violence and these MAGA extremists. But look at how many celebrities, news anchors, and influencers have incited violence against Trump and made comments about taking him out, flat out saying, take him out. And I mean, I hope that this will tone all of that down, because I think at this point, if they try to pull that shit now, it's going to be a really bad look for them. And how many of them right now are like shitting their pants and deleting their social media posts because they did flat out call for Trump's assassination. We just talked about that Harry Sisson guy last week. And so now this morning I saw people are posting that TikTok is actually deleting these posts that called for Trump's assassination, because if you go back and try to pull them up, it says the post is taken down for community guidelines violation. So they're all panicking, I'm sure, knowing that they actually incited the violence.
Yeah, this kind of shit blows my mind because it takes me back to the fact that like we post something about COVID or the bird flu and like we get community guidelines violations, but they can have literal assassination calls that stay up on social media until something like this happens. Bullshit.
Yep. Oh, and I know that Harry Sisson guy's like flipping out because I saw him immediately doing this post like, oh, I hope Trump's okay. It's like, you dipshit, you asked for him to be assassinated last week. So yeah, you're probably like terrified right now that you're going to be arrested. And I also want to point out that Biden made an unprecedented move in not allowing RFK Jr. to have Secret Service. And RFK brought that up in one of the interviews I saw, that while he's out campaigning, it's always been customary during presidential campaigns for everyone to have that protection. And so RFK Jr. stated multiple times that he's worried about an assassination attempt. Obviously, like he saw his father and uncle assassinated. And so when Biden refused to give him that security, it was obvious that he didn't want him to have the protection. And what has Biden and the Democrats called for recently? Yeah, they called for removing the Secret Service from Trump when he's in prison. Why would they do that? I don't know, maybe so that he could be assassinated. And I just want to point out real quick, I have the names of the Democrats that introduced this legislation to strip Donald Trump from his Secret Service protection, in case anyone wants to go and like visit them on social media or send them a letter. It's Rep. Benny Thompson, Rep. Troy A. Carter Sr., Rep. Barbara Lee, Frederica Wilson, Yvette D. Clark, Bonnie Watson Coleman, Jasmine Crockett, Joyce Beatty, and Steve Cohen, in case anyone wants to make a comment to those people. And it's like they've made so many attempts to bring Trump down. And of course, we've talked about this relentlessly over the past week, that they're desperate after the debate because the media has turned on Biden and no one thinks he can win. And we totally called it. We've been saying they're so desperate that they will do anything to keep Trump from winning. But of course, Tara, like, are we ever going to get answers or justice? No. Like, I don't think so, but I do think that this just confirmed Trump's victory. And I mean, we've seen it. Like every time they go after him, he gets more popular. And anytime there is a shocking event like this, it unifies the country. So I would bet any money that any undecided swing voters out there are absolutely going to show up and vote for Trump in November.
Yeah, and like he's already said he's still going to attend the RNC this week despite the assassination attempt, which is awesome. And I can guarantee that if it were the other way around, Biden would be kept in the basement and not out in public. But I want to play this clip from Megyn Kelly. Like she did a 3-hour podcast right after the shooting. And when she was talking about Trump's statement after being shot, here's what she said.
You know, it reminds me, Eric, a little bit of George W. Bush after 9/11. I mean, of all things, his ear was ripped off. Part of his ear was ripped off. Then it reminds me of the George W. Bush, well, I can hear you. And soon the people who knock down these buildings will hear all of us. It's that kind of a moment right now. You may have almost shot off the man's ear. You may have almost shot off his head. But the world is going to hear all of us on November 5th, that this is not who we are. This is not how we resolve political disputes in the United States of America. We are not actually a banana republic, despite the left trying to take us there in unprecedented ways over this past year. I think true patriots, and I mean patriots, that you can separate it apart from whether you're a core Trump supporter, true patriots and lovers of this country and this experiment understand now that the stakes have changed in this election. It's not about petty concerns that can be resolved 4 years from now. It's about who we are and what we'll tolerate as Americans. The stakes have changed entirely. I'll give you the...
I hope she's right. Like, I really do.
I feel like listening to her, it's just evoking so many emotions. And I think everyone, unless you are like a psychopath, you're feeling that right now. And that's what's going to help him win, is like people know good from evil.
Yeah, but it's still July, right? We still have several months to go, and I want to point this out too. I want to know your thoughts on this because all the media attention since the debate has just been focused on, like you said, all the Democrats and celebrities that have been starting to call on Biden to drop out of the race. Well, now that conversation has stopped, right? At least for now. And I was reading an article in NBC News that was talking about how several Democrats are saying that the efforts to replace Biden as their candidate are going to be halted. And then we have Biden going on camera and giving this statement, like, condemning the violence and calling it sick. And then almost immediately, the Biden campaign started pulling their TV and social media campaign ads attacking Trump. The DNC did the same thing. The Biden admin told staffers to, quote, refrain from issuing any comments on social media or in public and pause any proactive campaign communications across all platforms and in all circumstances until we know more, end quote. So now people are saying that it would reflect poorly on anyone in the Democrat Party to try and call for a sitting president to step aside in the midst of this kind of crisis. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I hope it does. I think he should have to run. I know a lot of people are like, oh, but that's dangerous for America. Here's my opinion on it. We know Biden's not in control. Whoever is in control right now is the same person that's going to be in control if Kamala steps in. Yeah. So that's not going to change in my opinion. What I'm interested in is if they're already pulling their ads that are attacking Trump, are we going to see all of Trump's cases fall apart and be dismissed? Because it's going to look really bad when you're politically attacking a candidate and putting charges against him. It already looks bad, but now it's just going to highlight that they created this mess. And I think we're going to see those charges disappear. I don't know. That's my opinion.
I hope you're right. I guess we'll find out.
Yeah.
It's crazy to me that we are still months away, Yeah. If this had happened in late October, I think it would be a little different, but you still have 3.5 months or so, and we don't know what the fuck they're going to do,
Mm-hmm.
For all we know, they could replace this whole thing with, Biden suddenly passes away or something happens.
Right.
And now there's all this focus on the next Democrat candidate. And it's just we're just living in the craziest times ever.
I know. Well, and I do think the timing, it's a few days before the RNC, maybe that had something to do with it. And I can't wait to dive more into this shooter because like you said, okay, he was registered Republican. He had a gun shirt on or whatever, but he was part of that, liberal extremist party. And just think about it. If you were trying to corrupt some broken kid and get him to do something like this, what would you do? You'd have him go register as a Republican and wear a shirt about guns and make it look like it was, the Republicans, the MAGA extremists, whatever. So I can't wait to find out more about that and to see what they come up with the Secret Service. And I'm not holding my breath because Congress has done a terrible job at holding anyone accountable. Yep. But we'll see. I mean, we'll be here. We'll be the first to talk about it for sure and keep everyone posted. So that's the big news for today. It's probably all we're going to hear about this month. We'll keep you guys posted. We have a whole other episode that's going to be really good coming up Wednesday that we're holding off on because obviously this happened. So stay tuned for that. And thank you for tuning in. If you're sick of all the crazy shit going on in our country and you want to express your support and patriotism for the show, head on over to our Etsy store at UO Patriot Chicks and check out our new stickers. The link can also be found on our website. If you love the show and you want exclusive episodes, support the podcast and join the conversation by becoming a member of our Patreon community. We'll be posting weekly member-only podcast episodes and content that isn't available on the weekly podcast. Every Patreon member will also get a free Unapologetically Outspoken sticker and updates about our new sticker release before they're made public. And be sure to follow us on TikTok at Unapologetically Outspoken. And if you haven't done so already, please rate and review the podcast. The more you support us, the more people we can reach. So help us spread the word.